city of Elizabethtown, and today we're here at the beautiful historic State Theater in downtown E-Town to celebrate something and talk about the 30th anniversary of a little bitty event we like to call Christmas in the Park. 30 years later, this event is still going strong, and today I'm so honored to welcome in former Mayor Pat Durbin and former Mayor's Secretary, that's correct, right, Carolyn? Miss Carolyn. Miss Carolyn Kuiper-Ritchie. So ladies, thank you so much for coming today. It is so important that folks know the history. It's 30 years of an event. I have yet to meet anyone that has not been through Christmas in the Park, who has not experienced it, and who doesn't love it. And so we feel that it's very important that folks know how it started, and we want to hear it right from you guys. So thank you so much. I want to start by sharing a couple of current facts, because I think that it's important to know the work that you all put in 30 years ago, that it's still going strong, and how successful it is today. So we installed a car counter about 5 years ago because we really wanted to know exactly how many vehicles went through the event. And we found out very quickly that anywhere between 30,000 and 45,000 vehicles crossed over the car counter. So if you look at each car, very rarely do you have a car go through that only has one person in it, right? Some of those vehicles are buses, some of them are vans. I know myself, I'm a family of 5. So when my vehicle goes over, you're counting 5 people. So we range the attendees for Christmas in the Park anywhere from 60,000 to over 100,000 plus. We'll never know exactly how many people and the lives that you all have touched in the creation of Christmas in the Park. We have over 100 light displays. Some years it's 120. The city has anywhere from 20 to 30, ranging on what spots we need to fill in. Donations, as you all know, it's still a free event. Thank you for starting it as a free event. And we see donations anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a year, so almost $1 a car, which is fantastic. And last but not least, we started to require LED lighting of all our displays. And just a fun fact that electricity, and you guys might remember the dollar amounts in the beginning, but electricity before LED lighting was required and really started to become popular, the electricity bill was over $30,000 to run it. So the money that came in, as you know, went straight for that. Now, it's about $7,000 to run Christmas in the Park. So we're able to take those donations and put back in. So I just wanted you guys to know those fun facts that you all probably enjoy much more than most other people, being a part of the logistics. Of course. Of course. So Mayor Durbin, I have been told many a times by former Mayor Edinburger that it was your idea to start Christmas in the Park. So tell us about that.
Well, I am the mother of a kid who graduated in 1990 from high school, and our son Derek was playing in the high school tournament in Ashland, Kentucky. And so my husband and I went to Ashland to spend hopefully 2 or 3 days. When they fell out of the game, they fell out and had to go home. So we went up there to spend 2 or 3 days, hopefully, and we got to stay that long. But anyway, one night my husband and I saw this little square, a block, and as we were riding around, and they had little Christmas trees, little decorations just around one block in Ashland, Kentucky, and cars were just kind of moseying around. It was at the Christmas time, this tournament, it was called the Ashland Christmas Tournament, and the cars were just kind of going around, kind of going slowly. So we did the same thing, and we took Tony Scott. A lot of you might remember Tony Scott and his wife. His son was one of the managers for the basketball team that was playing in the tournament up there. And so he and Geneva went with us on this tour around the 5-minute tour. The cars weren't in the way. And we talked about it, and we thought, I said, that would be a great thing to have in E-Town. And we've got a good place to have it, and we could have a really big a big thing if we had it at the lake. So I came back and I talked to Carolyn and some of my friends and people in the office, and it just clicked. And so we developed a committee. Carolyn was my secretary at that time, and I put her in charge. I put her in charge of all my dirty deals. But I put her in charge, and she really did a wonderful job. We had really good people who were conscientious, and not only volunteers, some of our employees were really, really helpful. And I think the thing that really has made it a success is the fact that everybody is responsible for the display that they have. If yours goes down, you come back and fix it. It's not up to the city employees. And that way it stays maintained and nobody's pointing the finger. They know from the first thing. And I love the fact that it's free because anybody can go as many times as they want. So that was the idea. It just happened that we were at a turn. I call them God winks. I use the word God winks all the time because I think things just happen for a cause.
Yeah.
So that was how it happened. I came back all excited, and my husband said, "Pat, you're crazy." And he knew that when I married him, so but anyway, it worked out fine. I'm really, really proud that it has followed through the years and got much bigger and better because we had to have, what 13 people?
We had 19.
19 people.
We never got anybody to come in.
So how did you get those 19 folks? How did that start?
Very good.
I think so. We went and begged and told them how important it is to support the community.
Do you remember what businesses there were?
I have a list of them. You have a list of them in your file, I'm sure.
Okay,
We
okay.
know which ones didn't do it either the first year and wanted to the next. That was a good thing.
And the next year we couldn't. We didn't have a room for everybody that wanted in.
Really?
Yeah. And so then we had to start putting more electricity boxes in, electrical boxes, and we had to do all of that to make that possible.
So what was the, logistics? Because that's where I live in the event world, logistics. How do you make this work? The electricity is a very important part. So what were the issues with the electric at the beginning?
Well, deciding where to put them.
Yeah.
Because not only is it for Christmas in the park, the park's used all year long. So you have to have them to where they're not in way of other things that are going to be coming in. And we already were using it for our Heartland Festival, so we had up close to the barn and everything, we already had some electricity, but on out in the park, we didn't accept it for pavilions.
It was just a nature park.
Yeah.
That was the purpose, the original purpose, and it's still a nature park with some lights and things.
With some electricity.
So we had to strategically plan where we were going to put the electricity and how far off the road, depending on the size of the displays. And it was just a lot of work that went into just getting all of that worked out.
I can't imagine.
We changed where you moved, where we started it,
Right.
over to the new entrance to the park.
Yeah.
It used to be over where?
By Coke, as you came in by
Coke
Coke.
plant.
Oh, okay.
As you're doing your trick or treats, you're coming in
Right.
by the Coke plant this year.
Right.
So that's used to be where we always came in instead of exiting. So we used to exit out the back way.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the arches were, because as a kid we used to drive
Right,
really
like
fast
the
through the
bridge,
arches.
Yeah,
That was the bridge, the
Yeah.
bridge.
Yeah. And so you go out and come out through up by the Knoll Road up through there.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be the exit.
Are there any displays today that you all still see that either were a part of it at the beginning or pieces of them that are still sticking around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is the Down Laundry. They have Santa in the barrel.
Yep.
Waiting for his clothes to be cleaned. And that was one of my favorites. And I like the reindeer at, can't remember which one that is, reindeer at,
Modern Welding was one of our first, and they're on the hill, and they're in the same spot. And that was our agreement with them, if they would come, they would always be in that spot. And they, as far as I know, they were still there last year, as far as I know, they're still in the same spot. So
Good to know.
Modern Welding, yeah.
because we get my spot.
Because we
Double
did
check
tell
that.
them, after a few years, we did tell them that they might be moved because of just changing it around a little bit. So we did start moving a few of them, but some of them had kind of got their display for that spot. So it didn't work in other spots.
Right.
So you had to think about the logistics of all of that also, as far as where they were putting and what they were buying. And we had to approve everything that they brought to the park.
Right.
And so, some people didn't get in with what they wanted sometimes, because, we wanted it to stay about Christmas.
Yes.
And support the businesses, but.
So right now the guidelines are, obviously geared toward Christmas. Your display has to be about Christmas, obviously, in whatever capacity. But they're allowed to have a 2-foot by 4-foot sign, with their business name or logo, but that's it. Were those guidelines, was that something that you all created?
Yes, it was.
So they've stuck around?
The sign has still been the same.
There was a lot of preparation for it. Our committee was great. I mean, they just worked like beavers to get it done. And that was Flint Inc. They had the ones where the little deer were dancing, all of them just dancing and kicking their legs up. And the kids loved that one. too, so there were a lot of them that crazy.
So I don't know how old this story is, but I want to share with you in case you don't know, because you mentioned God Wings. So Rogers Sign Service, their display is just a cross, a lighted cross. Very simple, but it's absolutely beautiful. And the placement of it, when we went to go look at maybe moving it around, because like you said, you try to keep it fresh, so we still do that every couple of years. We were told that there was a patient in CommuniCare that was actually considering committing suicide, and he was asking for a sign from God, and it was during Christmas in the park. He happened to look out the window and see that cross. So, you know, if nothing else, Christmas in the park may have just been created for that one human being, you know?
It reminds me of the Hallmark Christmas program.
Yes.
I feel like if they talk about your community and all, everything is so dear. Every time I think of Christmas in the park, it reminds me of the Hallmark season.
I agree.
All those Christmas movies that you watch that are nice, clean movies, and it's just a nice, clean event.
It really is. It really is. And it sounds like a lot of the rules we keep in place today, and we do our best to enforce. Sometimes you make people mad, as I'm sure you remember. But it's important to keep the integrity of it and to keep it looking great and all those things. So, did you all have any opposition when you started this?
Not opposition, but I like to tell funny stories. There was a bank right across the street from our entrance, and the president of the bank was a good friend of mine. I just begged him to put his cute little frame that he had out in front of his bank in our park. And he said, I'm not going to do it. People will look at my frame, they'll know that's my business. And we were just kind of going back and forth. So he did not put his train in the park that year, but the next year he put his train in the park. We won one. He was a good fellow, though. He was a good man.
Told you so, right? Do you remember how many, did you ever have a guess of how many people came through the first few years?
Well, we had counters back then also.
You did?
Yeah, I've got it in my file.
I can't wait to look through this file, Carolyn.
And but we had counters. We borrowed the Hardin County Road Department's road
Okay,
counter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they put it up for us each year, took it down, and gave us the count, and printed out the count for us. So we did have counts going through back then.
Okay.
And our big feat was getting a donation box, which you're still using.
Why was that such a big feat?
Because it came from the U.S. government. It is a actual postal box.
And it still is, you're exactly right.
And I had to go to a surplus place to end up getting that box and making sure that we could paint it and nobody ever knew where it came from.
Now they know.
Now that can't be.
Now they know.
And it can't go, no, I'm just, but no, that the postmaster was very nice and said, we really can't sell these or anything, but we know where all the surplus is, and so we ended up getting a surplus box, one of the big ones, and it's still being used, and painted it and fixed it to where we could see. Yeah. So that's how we ended up with our donation box.
Okay.
And the police would pick up the money and
Still do? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still do. Awesome.
But yes, a lot of the things that were there to begin with are still there. That we, as the mayor said, we thought about all the things that had to happen to make it a success. And so
you really were able to see further out than most people, because like I said, we still keep.
Mayor was always a visionary.
Yes.
And she still is.
She's very nice.
Is there anything that you all drive through now and say, man, I wish they still did that. Man, I wish the rockets with climate control, you know, they finally had ran their course, and we received so many letters a few years ago, where are the rockets? And they were mad at us over it, you know. So I don't mean to call out climate control, but things do. They age, and unfortunately, they sit out in the weather and they don't work. So driving through now, are there things now you wish that, or you remember that you wish that you could see back there?
Not dragon.
Yeah, the dragon on the
That was an idea. I always called it Puff.
Puff.
And
the
yeah,
dragon.
but I know that was a real feat trying to keep it lit out on the water. And then we put the dolphins and all like them. And a lot of the things, you know, water ones are always hard. And of course, we always had the one from, which is not there anymore, the boat place that were for St. Vincent de Paul. They always took their pontoon out and put the lights and Santa out on it. And of course, they're no longer in business. So you do lose some of your displays that you remember because the business is changing. So, but that one was always, the water ones have such a beautiful reflection. Yeah, and that's why the water ones are so important.
Those dragons, the dragon was really great.
Yeah.
We attributed that to Mimi.
Yeah.
Hornback, we just thought that seemed like Mimi.
Yeah.
And I talked to Mimi, and she was very gracious. Wasn't available to come and do the interview, but she definitely appreciated the phone call, and knew that she was very well appreciated for being a part of the committee. Who else was a part of it at the very beginning? You mentioned Tony Scott.
Well, now Tony was just in the car with us when we went around the block.
That's right. Yeah,
But he was all in for it. He'd do anything that
Edith
needed to be done.
Duke, myself, Mimi, Dale Ford, it's Billy Trout, there was someone from one day with that. I've got that, you've got that list too in your file. But those were the ones there was only like 5 of us, six maybe at the most, that was on the first committee. And then we started increasing. And then, Paul Greenwell came on. He was on it for many years, even after and Billy Pratt came on.
After I left,
Janice Krause came on.
That's sad my time.
Yeah, so there was lots of other people that came on and went off after Brenda Fullerton came on. So there was lots of people that came on over the years and stayed on. And even after I left, there were more people that came on. So yeah.
Stay tuned for the next segment of Christmas in the Park, a community tradition, where we go through the history and all of the great details of how Christmas in the Park started 30 years ago.